Very few people like giving presentations, and everyone gets nervous about the process. But we can make things easier for ourselves by breaking the presentation down into 3 parts: the planning, preparation of materials, and the delivery. In this first video, we're going to look at the planning, but do take a look at my other videos to see how to do those other parts. Just like everything else that you do, a presentation requires careful planning and preparation. You're going to need to start with lots of research in order to ensure that you're well versed on the subject that you're going to be presenting on. More than that though, when we're planning a presentation, we need to think about how we're going to tell the story. And I do mean story, because a presentation isn't just about a set of ideas or bullet points. It's about moving your audience towards a conclusion and showing them why it's sensible to end up there. One of the best ways of doing this is to think about your presentation in 3 separate parts. First, you need to consider where your audience is starting from. Think about, what do they already know? Who are they? Are you trying to teach them something, to prove something, get them on board with an idea or a project, or are you trying to sell them a product? Normally at university, your audience is your tutor in your class, and you could assume they know quite a bit about the topic. But be careful not to take shortcuts and miss out key information that you assume that they know. The next thing is to think about your goal. This is what you want to leave the audience knowing or understanding. You don't just want them to get to the end, you want to change something about the way that they feel. Is it that you want them to think that your project is great, or perhaps that the topic you're presenting on is useful for understanding contemporary society, or perhaps to debunk an idea? Think carefully about what you want them to feel and what they should understand at the end of the presentation. Then you can plan the presentation itself, the middle part. How will you get people from the start to your goal? What information do you need to provide them to move them along this path? Let's look at an example. In a presentation about a research proposal, your audience starts by knowing a great deal about research and often about the topic you'll discuss. But they know nothing about why your project is a good idea or how you plan to do it. You need to move them from being knowledgeable about the subject to being interested and excited about the new things you will be contributing to the subject and the field. Once you know the journey you want to take them on, you should write it down as a bullet-pointed story. Don't open PowerPoint yet. Instead, work through, step by step, the points that you need to get your audience to the goal, keeping in mind the length of the presentation. Gordon Kangas talks about this process in much more detail in his TED Talk on giving presentations that matter. I've linked to that below. The main point though is that planning a presentation is not really that complex, as long as you remember that the whole point of a presentation is to leave your audience changed in some way. A change in their feelings, their ideas, or their way of thinking. That is your goal. To do a good presentation, you need to consider where your audience is starting and where you want them to be when you finish speaking. And that's pretty straightforward, really.